Hello again, it's Brian from Love Lifeline. I'd like to address something that's been mentioned quite a few times in other channels, where to look for love. But often they're quite superficial, don't give much thought where to look for love, like practical steps. Okay, and I have mentioned earlier on, we need to work on ourselves and be better people in order to attract the better person. We want a loving person, we need to be more loving. We want an honest life partner, we need to be more honest. So, where do we look for love? The practical steps. Again, I've mentioned attitudes, not to be too pushy, because it's all well and good to want to be with somebody, want to meet that perfect partner. And of course, it may take a few times to find that, but it's important not to have that attitude of being too pushy, because that energy will come across and we may even push potentially good people away from us who may make good life partners. So firstly, I'd like to mention some to avoid. A lot of relationship channels are really just about dating channels or casual sex channels, which this is certainly the furthest thing from it. I believe in a committed relationship between one man and one woman for life. And that's what I've been seeking in my life. And that's what I hope you've been seeking also, not casual hookups. If that's what you're after, then you need to look for another channel. There's plenty of those around. They give you advice of how to find people for that. So I'd avoid places such as bars for a start. Places where people are drinking, bars and sports events. People are drinking, often, I'm not saying all people, but there's quite a few people that have many toxic traits themselves that would be someone that would frequent a bar. I'm not saying everybody does, but people who frequent those places a lot are often likely to have toxic tendencies themselves, whether it's drinking too much or other things, anger issues and so on. So also there's a lot of distractions going on, there's a lot of noise, it's hard to physically hear each other. And you have to look at the motivations for people. When you do look for a place to look for someone, what are the motivations for people being in that location? Usually in the bars, people are looking to get drunk, or not all, but many, to some degree, and many are looking for casual sex. They're not looking for their life partner in a bar. So rule that out for a start, a bar or a sports event or any kind of public event. Also gyms, although there may be people that want to improve themselves there, and I actually do recommend regular exercise to improve how you feel about yourself, how you look, and your health in general. Gyms may not be the ideal location because, again, I don't want to generalize again. It might be full of people like you who want to be a better person. No problems with that. Gyms can attract quite a few people that are quite narcissistic and, again, are looking for casual sex. Again, not all people, of course, are doing that, but there is quite a significant number of people going to gyms to get fit and also to look for casual sex. So I highly recommend, unless you know the person outside as well, say you know the person at work and you go to the gym together. That's a different kettle of fish, of course. Nothing wrong with that. Also, casual dating apps. I strongly recommend not using those. You know the ones, I'm sure. Adult Friend Finder. Can't even think of what the most famous one is at the top of my head now. They are designed, again, for people who want casual sex with no commitments. Lots and lots of casual sex with many different people, which is in itself a toxic thing, in my opinion. A very sad thing. I don't criticize as in they're horrible people. I actually feel sorry for people who engage in that kind of lifestyle. It's very self-destructive as well as destructive to others. Many people who use those dating sites or apps, casual dating sites, and I will differentiate from online dating later on, which I don't have a problem with safeguards. The other problem is many on the casual dating apps are actually married or in a relationship, and they're using these apps to find their casual sex. So, highly recommend, do not use those to find people. Now, where you should look, places you may not have thought of yourself. And again, they may not be suitable for you, that's no problem, but I have seen value in these places for some people, for sure. First place, it would be a church. Yes, you may not be religious, you may not be a Christian. I myself am a Christian. Don't panic, I'm not going to push anything on you, but again, going back to my original premise, what brings people to these locations? Is it self-interest or not? In the above examples I gave, the bars and the gyms, it may be selfishness, selfish reasons. In a church situation, although you won't meet perfect people there, generally speaking, you'll meet people who are, again, into self-improvement. They are honest with themselves. That's why they ended up there in the first place. Perhaps many come to a realization, like I did, that life is a very sad place, a very lonely place, and they look for something outside of themselves, and a faith in God is one of those things. So that's also a positive mindset. If you do become a believer, or if you are a believer and you recommit to God, having a belief in something outside yourself is also very good for you, very good for your mental health, your physical health, and your stress levels in general. If you have a belief in a God, that means usually your fear of death won't be such a problem, which can be a common fear with many people. So I recommend churches. If you're not sure where to go, again, do some research. There are actually quite a lot of toxic churches out there, so do quite a bit of research. If you want detailed information, I've actually studied this with a lot of detail. So this would be something I would have to help you with in a private email, because it's too complicated to get into on a comment. So I do have an email for this channel. It's lovelifeline.contact@gmail.com. So if you are interested in finding a church or a denomination that suits you, I have an enormous amount of knowledge about this particular topic. I've seen the good, bad, and the ugly in the church world. Believe me, I'm somewhat of an authority on the subject. Another place, if that's just not something you're comfortable with, or you think maybe in the future but not now, that's okay, no problems. Charity groups. I don't know the names of the groups in your country. Perhaps you have a Apex group or a Lions Club. I forget the names of some of the others. Anyway, groups that do charity work, whether it's soup kitchens or many other types of things. Fundraising to help poor people, doing gardening for older people, all kinds of, there's many different kinds. There's not just for the homeless, there's many kinds of charities set up specifically for different groups you may feel more passionate about, like charities for children, for example, charities that visit people in hospital, so many, in aged care centres, there's so many different types of charities. You don't have to think just homeless people, although there's nothing wrong with helping the homeless or helping people with addictions. There's many types. I strongly recommend joining because, again, where do these people come from? These are people that have empathy for other people. They're there to help other people, not themselves. So you are going to meet a group of people doing the same thing that you are, the charity work, and they are an empathetic person, or they should be if they are a long-term charity worker. So that's a great place to find a good quality person. Plus, you can spend significant time doing the charity work, which gives you time to get to know the people in depth that you're working with. Related, similar to charity, is a sports or a hobby group. Not quite as good, I don't think, but still can be, depending on the interest. If it's an interest or a sport that you're passionate about, then that makes it easy to conversation. Some of you may feel awkward striking up conversation with people. If you have an interest or a sport that you love, then it's very easy to talk about that rather than each other. If you struggle to talk about yourself, start talking about the interest group, and naturally it'll become easier as you get to know the people you share about yourself. So I think, as well as the aspect of staying fit and feeling better about yourself in terms of a sport that I've touched on in other topics, the ability to improve our physical health, I think, is very good, both for our physical health and our mental health. So I'll keep touching on that in most videos. So we've got churches, sports or hobby groups. Now lastly, one that many dismiss or has a strong negative connotation behind it. With the right safeguards, I actually think this is a very good option, as well as the ones I've already mentioned. Equally as good. Online relationship apps, I nearly said dating. It might be called dating, but not casual dating. Online services, specifically looking for people that want to be married, or if they don't explicitly state that, you can certainly state that in your profile that you are, and I'll go into that in a minute, you are only looking for a life partner with marriage. Now, there are safeguards that I mentioned, especially if you're a woman. For a start, no matter how good someone sounds or seems when you meet them online, when you converse with them, number one thing, never ever meet someone alone in a place or a very quiet place, a very small cafe or something that you've never met them before, alone. And this may sound old-fashioned or very strange, but there is a possibility, an option. Also, you can meet the person with a close friend or a family member. Now, I know some of you might be laughing, but if the person has a problem with that, that is a clear sign that they may not be an ideal match for you. If they are a well-adjusted, healthy person, they see that you're taking a safeguard for your own safety. It's no insult to them. They should be happy that you're so thoughtful about that. And also they get to meet one of your friends, which may give more insight on yourself also for the first date. If you can't find someone, then again, I would recommend going to a large venue or a venue near one that you know very well, and go there and go home with your own transport. Never ever accept the transport of anybody you don't know at any time, especially at night, but even during the day. Don't accept it. Don't take the risk. Spend the money, get a taxi, or drive your car, whatever the case may be. Get a good friend, trusted friend to drive you there and back. Never ever allow them, no matter how good you think they are on the first date or the first few dates, never allow them to drive you back home, and never go back to their house or apartment or hotel or whatever it is. Never. If they're a good person, they should not be asking you to come back to their house on the first handful of dates. That's another red flag. Speaking of red flags, there's one thing I'm very big on, intuition. It's called women's intuition, but some men have it too. I've had it all my life. This burning feeling inside. When you meet somebody, without them saying anything, they may even be smiling at you and speaking nicely. If you get a negative feeling about somebody, And if it's possible, please listen to that feeling. Don't feel sorry for them, and don't try and reason it in your mind that they haven't done anything wrong. Please, for your own well-being, politely walk the other way. I don't mean literally, but do not be alone with that person or go anywhere with that person. There's many horror stories you can look up online. Again, I wouldn't recommend looking into negative things like the news and crime and all that sort of thing. But there have been so many stories when people have saved their own lives or others with just simply an intuition. I don't know how to explain it. Medical science can't explain it, but I do know it's real. It is 100% real. It's not an imagination, it's real. It's proven itself to myself many, many, many times. Many, many times. I have a short story about that. Oh, one last thing. Sorry, I got distracted. Yes, online dating. So don't meet them alone. And don't compromise on your values. If you are a committed Christian, please, and again I've heard many horror stories about this, please, if the person looks good, but they are definitely not a Christian, not a committed Christian, or not the same kind of type of denomination or the same mindset as you, this will cause major problems down the line, even if you are very compatible in other areas. If the person is of no religion or a different religion, please don't think you can change their minds later on. This is a very common mistake. No person can change another person, whether for the positive or the negative. It's actually much easier to change a person to the negative than to the positive with spending time with them. Bad habits are easy to pick up. Good habits take longer to pick up. So use your intuition. Don't be alone with someone you've only just met. Don't compromise. Again, with online, you need to write your profile as detailed as possible. Write down your pros and cons, things you like, things you love, things you dislike, things you hate, as detailed as possible. And the people you search should have as many things in common with you as possible. So if you're someone who loves staying at home, you're an introvert, loves reading a book on the couch, please, please don't, despite other things looking good, don't consider somebody who loves to go to parties every other week, loves to have large group of people around them all the time. It will drive you crazy, believe me. Opposites may attract, but they will also self-destruct long term. In order for a relationship to be healthy and last long term, you must have your core values must be aligned with the other person. Superficial things like age, height, skin color, hair, all those things never matter, but core values, things that you really believe in your heart, are absolutes. Never compromise on those things, please. It will save you many, many years of heartbreak. Just one little story about intuition. Some years ago, I was living in a house with several other people, and they were all younger than me. This one young woman, she was about 20, 21. I actually knew her from some years before. She was the daughter of a friend of mine. And I hadn't seen her for a few years. But anyway, she came up to me all smiling and happy and very polite. I had a bad feeling. For some reason, I have no idea why. She was so polite. She asked me, I think it was about work, finding work. Some innocent question. I said, sorry, I don't know anything about that line of work. Anyway, every time I saw her, she was always nice, lovely. But I had that feeling every time I saw her. Something wrong with her. Keep away. Anyway, short time later, I spoke sat down in front of a fire, relaxed, and spoke to another person, a man that was similar, or older than me actually. He was very chatty, and we struck up a conversation. And he told me something that surprised me. He said he had a house, a government house, and this woman needed somewhere to stay, so he let her stay there, but he had to leave for a few months and go to another state for some issue he had, family issue, I forget what it was. Anyway, when he came back, the house was completely destroyed, and of course he was never allowed to have a government house again. Moral of the story, please listen to your intuition, whether it's something small, like do I go out to this event today or not, or whether it's something big, do I date this person or not. Please always, always listen to your intuition, and don't try and reason why it doesn't make sense. And don't allow anyone else near you to reason you into ignoring that feeling. Don't let anyone say you're being silly, doesn't make sense, go for it. Don't listen, please. Anyway, if you have any questions, if you would like to chat, comment, suggest topics, please, or contact me in private in my email. If it's a more personal nature, I'm very happy to help, or if I can't help, I'll try and find the information in order to help you. That is what this is all about, this community, helping each other, sharing our stories and helping each other. Love Lifeline, contact@gmail.com. Thank you very much. See you next time.